The following video contains a non-Welsh person trying to pronounce Welsh words. Online pronunciation guides were used, however they may still be wrong. Apologies in advance. Pokémon Myth and Pokémon Legend. These are the names of the hypothetical games set in my Fakemon region, Kelot, based on Wales. With those names, that evokes, well, mythology, and some of the Fakemon I've shown off in previous videos in this series, as well as ones I'll show in future videos, have been based on mythology, especially Welsh mythology. But I had to make a dedicated video on the subject, which is what this video is. A showcase of what fantastical creatures explore this region's landscapes. Hold on, I've not talked about these two Fakemon depicted in this picture, have I? So, let's start this video off with Spectaby and Pupset. Before I get into their lines individually, I want to show you how they're a duo. You see, I really like the dynamic Durant and Heatmore have, where Durant is an ant with the bug steel type combo, and Heatmore is an anteater with the fire type, which is both the animal that would hunt Durant and the only type it is weak to. I just love this concept, especially since I ignore how the Pokédex explains that Durant is steel type for defense purposes. Extinction Event who? Anyways, this made me think of other type combos with this dynamic, and I quickly thought of the normal ghost and dark types. Cats and dogs have a rivalry as old as time, and I had a great idea for them both in Kellot. You might consider why I'm not doing a cat and mouse pair, as that fits predator and prey, but as some of you may have guessed, Spectaby draws heavy inspiration from Schrödinger's cat, a thought experiment in the field of quantum physics by Austrian physicist Erwin Schrödinger. It goes like this. Imagine a cat in a box, except the box has a machine in it that can kill the cat if a radioactive atom, also in the box, decays, which is when it discharges a subatomic particle. The thing is, subatomic particles are weird. They exist in all sorts of states until they are observed, which is when their state becomes constant. This basically means that a really silly thing would happen in this thought experiment. Until you open the box, the cat is both alive and dead. Schrödinger came up with this to show that this observational property just can't work on large enough structures, like a cat. But yes, this explains Spectaby's typing. A normal, alive cat juxtaposed with the ghost of a dead cat. I liked the idea of the tail being spectral, due to this referencing how Manx cats don't have tails. They are from the Isle of Man, another Celtic nation. Video on it and Brittany coming soon. But why is this a myth? This sounds like a science thing, the opposite of a myth according to some people. Well, that's because the evolution, Purgatory, is based on Cath Palug, a monstrous cat from Arthurian legend, which is said to then go on to haunt the Isle of Anglesey. And yes, I know it is said to have started life as a black kitten, but it's white because it makes the line look more like a tabby to keep up with Spectaby's name, as well as drawing inspiration from other depictions of the Cath Palug. And it was born from the white sow Henwin, which we will get to, I promise. Regardless, the Purgatory line has a black shiny, and the white colour contrasts with Pupset. Speaking of, Pupset is based on Welsh sheepdogs, mainly to differentiate it from other dark-type Pokémon. The typing itself comes from its evolution, Pawful, which is based on the Rexom wolf, which is said to be a shadowy apparition of a black wolf, sometimes a mastiff. Now you see why I chose to make it a wolf, as it would be too similar to my Mastiff. This description would fit the ghost type, but for type variety, and because it fits so well with the duo idea I had for the Purgatory line. This canine of Twilight is typically seen around Wrexham, which has a football team, or soccer team for the Americans in the audience, known around the world as it appears in the show Welcome to Wrexham, which also features the club's owners, Rob McElhenney, and Deadpool himself, Ryan Reynolds. The line shiny directly references the Merc of the Mouth, as a nod to Wrexham AFC, whose home colours also include red, and the 2024-25 away colours are grey and black, like the regular colours of this line. And if you want to call this channel your home, leave a like, comment and subscribe. I'm hoping to reach 15k soon, so let's make that happen. If you want to keep updated while I'm away, why not join my Discord, and, if you can, become a member or join my Patreon, for early access to new designs and new videos. Back to this video. Time for another canine. Here's Werewolf, a mono-fighting type. I swear it's not just a furry. Werewolf is loosely based on the warrior from Arthurian legend known as Gwyllgi Garwloed, translating as man-dog rough grey, appearing in several medieval texts. Man with the head of a dog, sometimes depicted as a werewolf, with grey hair, who viciously killed one man a day, on average. He took Sundays off because killing people on the holiest of days would be wrong. So no dark type for you. Fighting though? Yes. I do think this behaviour would make sense, and could translate as this Pokemon not being able to be encountered on Sundays. Plus, wolves, in particular grey wolves, hunt prey as well, such as sheep, for example, making this connection work. But I didn't just want to make a human-shaped wolf. I considered giving it a weapon or some armour. But then I remembered the steel-type sheep line that I've not shown off yet has a theme of armour, which made me think about the phrase, a wolf in sheep's clothing, which then made me think about fashion and by extension Kellot's art theme, and I kinda went a bit mad. Using its fleece ability, it can change form. Give it a Mareep wool to hold, and it becomes the fighting electric spark pullover form. Give it a Wooloo wool, and it becomes the fighting normal kick pullover form. Give it a Flam wool, and it becomes the fighting fire dance pullover form. And finally, give it a Metal wool, and it becomes the fighting steel clash pullover form. Also, it has a physical fighting move called Sheer Claw, which changes its type depending on what form Werewolf is in, into its secondary type, as well as do more damage when it's not in its base form. For those thinking, this must be a Furbaitmon, I hate to break it to you, but I don't really take that into consideration. These things just happen. I'm sure this is the case for the majority of quote-unquote Furbaitmon in the official series too. Sometimes a fake mon I make is based on an animal and needs to be humanoid. Another humanoid mon is the 3-stage fairy type for the region. Think the Rotslion or Hatterene or Grimmsnarl. Meet Faeby, Twixie, and Fayring, all mono fairy. Faeby is based on changelings, a substitute for kidnapped humans left by supernatural beings. I thought it would be cool if it resembled a Pokeball, being this region's Pokeball mimic. I've never seen a humanoid fairy type fake mon fulfill this niche, and I like this idea a lot. Largely, this line is based on the Tylwyth Teg, the assortment of fairy folk creatures in Welsh mythology. They are the ones that tend to leave changelings. They also have fair hair, which I wanted to showcase. I also wanted to reference how some accounts say they live underwater, so we added leaves throughout the line, building to a somewhat more aquatic design in the final stage. No water typing though. This is one of many mon who live underwater but isn't water type, as it just lives there but isn't a water elemental. Another feature the artist and I added is that of fairy rings, a circular cluster of mushrooms said to be created by the Tylwyth Teg. These appear as the half circle on Faeby in place of the half circle on the Pokeball cap, full circle on Twixie, and a couple of markings on the head of Fayring, as well as golden rings in its design. Speaking of Fayring, I wanted to draw inspiration from Gragathanun, translating as dames of the elfin land or wives of the lower world, who live beneath the lakes. One characteristic about them is that they wore green, so I wanted to include that in the design as well. Some stories say they had white cattle who a farmer tried to slaughter. The fairies left and took with them all bar one, which turned black, being the supposed origin of the iconic Welsh black cattle. I wanted to reference this by giving her cow horns and black hair, but we ended up reserving the latter for the shiny, which is also based on Master Balls. Here's another water-dwelling creature that is not water type. The tadpole Tadwin and the frog? Fribin. I think I need to take you on a journey. Fribin is based on the Flamhegan Urdor, which is Welsh for water leaper. It is described as a frog with no legs, that has bat wings, a lizard tail, and a scorpion stinger at the end of the tail. I knew that I wanted to make it a flying poison type Pokemon for Kellot, but I felt like doing something faithful as a regular Pokemon needed to have a base stage. A single stage water leaper would feel confusing, I think, since some people may not realise it is a frog. I will admit, I almost felt like I had to make it a single stage out of necessity, as I wasn't sure if the secondary concept would pan out very well. But it did! If I'm going to have a base stage, it has to be a tadpole. But making just a tadpole wouldn't be enough in my opinion. I felt like there was potential in the flying type, as well as Kellot's artistic theme, and imagined a flag or ribbon flying through the air. This then made me think of maypoles, turning a lack of conventional tail, which mirrors Tadwin's evolution, into ribbons. And I felt like Fribin's design could combine a maypole and maypole dances, with the attributes of the water leaper. Maypoles are used all throughout Europe for local celebrations, especially in Wales, particularly South Wales. There is even a 14th century Welsh language poem about maypoles. The colourful ribbons made me give Tadwin the poison type as well. Fribin has it because of the stinger, but the colours of the ribbons reminded me of how some poisonous frogs have many vibrant colours to warn predators not to eat them. Time for another poison type! Owlchemist here is an owl arbitrarily, since owls are symbols of wisdom. However, I could have made it several animals, as I've based it on the mythical enchantress Ceridwen. Here's the abridged version of her story. So she thought her son was ugly, right? And I mean real ugly? So she thought that if he was going to be ugly, he could at least be smart. So she did what every parent wanting their kid to succeed academically would do, and make a really weird potion. The first 3 drops of the potion give wisdom, as well as creative inspiration, the Welsh word for which is Owen. The rest of the potion is a fatal poison. This explains the psychic poison typing. Psychic refers to the wisdom and Owen, and poison refers to the, the poison. Back to the story, because you must know. Ceridwen was not alone when producing the potion, as a blind man stoked the fire under the cauldron and a young boy called Gwyllgi stirred it. Unfortunately for Ceridwen, this precarious situation caused 3 hot drops of the concoction to be spilled onto the boy's thumb, and he was like, "Ah, it is hot!" and then proceeded, without thinking, to suck his thumb, to stop the burning, consuming the wisdom-filled drops of the potion intended for Ceridwen's ugly son. They then had a game of cat and mouse. I would say this is metaphorical, but you could argue it was literal, as Gwyllgi used his new wisdom to transform into various animals, as did Ceridwen. She pursued the boy before he became some corn. She became a hen, which is another kind of bird in my defense, and she ate him as corn. I am not done though, as the potion wasn't destroyed, meaning that when she was next pregnant, Ceridwen was like, "Oh no, I think I'm gonna birth out the corn boy, and I don't want that to happen. I guess I gotta do a little bit of infanticide when he's born." Yeah, she was gonna kill a newborn baby. Not surprising, since she technically did eat a child. Unfortunately for her, when the baby was born, he was the most beautiful gosh darn baby she had ever seen, and thus he was chucked into the ocean instead. Don't worry, he was sewn into a leather bag. Actually, I can't tell if that's worse. Regardless, the baby survived, was washed ashore, rescued by a prince, and grew up to be a bard. So, this story was so insane that I had to tell you, hence why this mon needed to exist. I didn't have any specific owl in mind, but long-eared owls were a strong inspiration for this mon. I only made it an owl, as I said, because of their association with wisdom, but I suspect it would have a range of different appearances, such as its face becoming more like a hen or a hawk. She did turn into several birds. I later came up with another owl-themed mon, which I'll show later in this video, but I felt both could coexist. The overall shape and colour of Owlchemist is meant to evoke an idea of an enchantress. The magenta face helps it look feminine and like a psychic type, as do the beads, which are also meant to evoke the poison typing, as does the green colouring throughout. Also, the horns producing droplets? That's the potion it secretes. Want to know what's better than 2 poison type lines? 3 of them, in the same video. Meet Snipig, a mono steel type, and Borber, a steel poison type. I wanted Snipig to be darker in colour because I wanted to reference Borhuk the Guta, a black sow said to appear after the bonfires die out during Kelot Gayam. Snipig is steel type, as I had a more interesting concept for it. It references pig iron, which the steel industry produces as an intermediate good, and is also a pun which references iron, which can appear as black. But the main reason for the typing is because both Snipig and Borber are based on scissors with their tails, and Borber even has razors for tusks. This is due to the pair being based on Torch Truith, a wild boar that King Arthur hunted with his hound. While the boar was taken from Ireland and pushed off a cliff in Cornwall, it does have foundations in Welsh myth, appearing in the story of Kelot and Olwen, where it was depicted as the son of a prince and was turned into a boar by God due to all the sins he was committing. Kelot, who sought the affection of Olwen, daughter of Isbaddaden, was tasked by his lover's father to retrieve a comb and scissors which the boar was carrying. This was so Isbaddaden could groom himself. Just thought I should mention Kelot is the cousin to King Arthur. Torc Truith was also depicted as having venomous bristles, hence the poison typing, and the hair, which pairs well with the grooming theme. Also, hairdressing and hairstyling, along with usually serving a practical use, can also be a creative outlet allowing someone to express themselves through hair. Quite a simple but effective concept overall. Another simple concept based on an apparition after bonfires during Cael and Gaeaf is Madamember here. Alternate stories say a woman in white appears, called a Lady Wen, and some claim she is headless, hence the white dress and disembodied head of Madamember. Bonfires also tend to go out when it is raining, and wet wood lets out white smoke when it is burning. Hence the combination of the woman in white and the white smoke. Sometimes she is characterized as a spooky ghost who requests help in exchange for gold. Sounds like a ghost type to me, and the fire type should be obvious, as where there's smoke, there's fire. Versions of this myth appear all throughout Wales, with several depictions that have different behaviours, not all malicious. Finally, I know y'all want to see a dragon. Meet Fowliage, which evolves into Drowliage when it levels up while asleep. So what are this draconic duo based on? Well, Foliage is based on Blodeuwedd, who is a figure in the fourth and final branch of the MYTHOLOGY, which is a collection of some of the earliest stories in Welsh literature. Blodeuwedd was a woman made from flowers, specifically those of broom, meadowsweet and oak, hence the yellowish colours in this design. Her name literally means flower face. She was created by some magicians in order to get around a curse laid on a hero by his mother, that he may never have a human wife. The hero is tricked by her to reveal what may kill him. As he has a complicated, paradoxical relationship with death, he cannot be killed in the day or night, in the indoors and outdoors, etc. Before she cheats on him and conspires with her side piece to murder him. When they try, he transforms into an eagle to fly away. Snitch on her by informing the magicians before one of them turns her into an owl. I recommend reading a more in-depth version of this folklore for yourself, as it's super interesting. Same with Ceridwen from earlier actually. The sleeping nature of Drowliage also references the Dragon of Radnor Forest, said to be the last dragon in Wales. It has an undisturbed slumber within Radnor Forest, which wasn't an actual forest per se, but in medieval times a forest was just an unenclosed deer hunting ground. Radnor Forest has woodland now, so this line still makes sense. A circle of 4 churches exists here, and is said to have enclosed the dragon, which is referenced by the 4 blue markings on its forehead. A disturbance of this would wake the dragon. The landscape is even said to look like the dragon. Perhaps people in Kellot mistake them as part of the landscape too. And that's it for the video. Comment below if this has impacted your team. Some myths will be incorporated in future designs, but they fit other videos I plan to make, so will be shown in them. Special thanks to the artists who brought these ideas to life, and to my members and patrons. And an extra special thanks to Dane Baker, my top tier member. Also, thank you to all the online guides I had to use to pronounce all of these names correctly. If I still pronounce one wrong, feel free to comment below. I am sorry. I shall see you guys next time. Cheerio!